Hey guys, welcome back to another video where, as part of our series of announcements related to usability improvements and tech stack upgrade, I'm pleased to announce that the Manage Center module has been totally reworked using React.js and GraphQL, so the overall user experience remains snappy, responsive, and more secure. The Manage Center is the core module to manage the operations and administration of the AgilePoint NX platform. It is a critical component that helps the administrator and power users maintain numerous aspects of the platform, both post-installation and at runtime. Being the security and governance module, it deals with large amount of data, and hence performance and user experience are topmost priority of this module. The redesign of this module is in line with our overall journey of user experience overhaul, which we started in AgilePoint NX version 8 with the end user facing modules, and the benefits are getting extended to some of the admin modules as well with the new release. Let's look at this in action. So I'm in my AgilePoint portal right now, and if I navigate to manage, one thing you will notice is that the screens load much faster compared to the legacy manage center. The first thing you are going to notice on this screen is previously there used to be a separate section for home page as well as dashboard. Those have been combined in one single screen called overview over here. So as an admin, in the first section itself, I can see the things which need my attention. Anything which went wrong with the system, suspended processes, overdue tasks, failed notification, failed process starts, failed events, pending events, etc. I can drill down. Each of them is a link, so I can always click on it, and it opens the result set in a new tab of its own, as you can see over here, and it is showing me all the suspended process instances. I go back. The next section shows me all the quick actions which I can take directly from my home screen itself over here. Instead of having to navigate through the menu options over here, I can take quick actions. Now these are personalizable. If you have an organization which has multiple system administrators, each of them can personalize it as per their needs. By default, right now you're seeing add roles, add users, add group members, delegations, add shared variables, add access tokens as the actions. But I can always go in and say, I don't want to see maybe add access token. I want to see grant entity permission over here. So you can always personalize it. Clicking on any of these links take you directly to the screen which you wanted to get to. Similarly, for quick links, these are the links which are provided for more important features within the Manage Center. You can always personalize this as well to any of the links which you want to show, and it directly takes you to the required screen. For example, global access token would take me to the access token screen itself. The next section shows me quick statistics. So it tells me the process instance overview of how many process instances are running, cancelled, completed, what is the access control status, how many groups, roles, and users are there in my system, and the overall server performance, event processing time, which is minimum, maximum, and average. So the key statistics are shown over here. If I drill down into runtime management, the options remain the same: processes, tasks, and notification, but within those modules, there have been some usability enhancements. For example, if I go to processes, one thing you'll notice is the previously opened tab. If you remember, I opened the suspended tab when I was showing you the overview section. Those are persisted. I'm seeing these tabs. I can always add a new tab over here as well. The first thing you will notice is the usability of the filters section has been improved. Previously, there used to be a lot of options over here. If I go back to other window which shows you the previous version, it had a lot of these search options available. Instead of user having to deal with that, those have been collapsed in a category drop down over here. I can specify that I want to filter based on app name, and I'm dealing with only those parameters here. I can quickly say, show me all the processes for the Redshift demo application, which are in all statuses, and click apply. So those start showing up over here. Also, the menu bar at the top has been changed. It gives you a more descriptive and easier to use action bar. If you drill down into any of these instances, you can see overall general information about this process instance. One big change you will see is that wherever username is being shown, we show you the full name instead of the username. This was one of the items which was very high on the wish list of some of the bigger enterprises, which tend to give very cryptic usernames for the users. So you can see the full name of the user, but when you hover over it, it shows you the full name, and in bracket it shows you the username. Similarly, it is showing you the statistics, number of people involved, number of notifications sent, remaining tasks, number of child processes, how many weeks since last action. Those are all being shown over here. If you bring up the window, similarly, as you can see, all of these are now showing full name. Rest of the tabs, they remain the same. There is process monitor, activities, tasks, event logs, data, process hierarchy, but you'll see a new tab over here called notifications. What we have done is any notifications which are sent within the context of this particular process are going to be shown within the notifications tab over here. Task and notifications follow a similar theme to process, so I'm going to skip that, but they follow a similar kind of theme over here. Now moving on to application management, we go to application management. The screen has been redesigned as well. You can search based on what kind of application you are looking for. You can drill down. You can see statistics on how different versions of the process are performing. If you go to permissions, the functionality overall remains the same, but the user experience has been changed. Previously, there were multiple clicks to get into various tiles. Now those have been all broken down into sections in the main screen itself. There's app permission. There's a new permission type called package manager permission, which I'll be covering in a later video. And then those are available right over here itself. Now, when I drill down into one of these, I can select the application. I can start adding new members just like previously. Moving on to app builder, shared variable, it remains the same kind of experience. The only thing which has changed is instead of the pop-up window, now all the editable windows are more of a flyout to remain consistent with the rest of the theme of the product. Global access token, there has been a usability enhancement over here as well. You can see tokens by group, but you can say show me all tokens. So that option is available right at the top. While creating the access tokens, the user experience remains almost the same. However, those have all been redesigned to use the power of React and GraphQL. eForm settings, there's a new settings which is available called mask input pattern, which works with the mask input control, which was released as part of the eForms as part of Agile.NX version 9. Access control, this is where the majority of changes have been done. If you go to users, you can always filter by users. You can specify, I want to filter by name. And in that case, you can specify a full name search or a username based search. You can filter by manager, filter by department. You can also filter by advanced, which lets you specify the full name, username, email, department, and manager username. So you have multiple options of doing the filter. It also shows you a quick view of enable versus disable users. This is something which was requested by some of the organizations, that they want to quickly, instead of drilling down into user and seeing whether the user is enabled or disabled, they wanted to see it quickly. So you can basically just filter based on whether a user has been enabled or disabled. So let's go ahead and disable a user. For example, let's disable this user. Now I'm seeing 5 users over here. If I say disable, that user is showing up for easier access. If I drill down into users, I can see the roles this user is part of, the groups this user is part of as well. Let's go ahead and add a new user. I'm going to call it Prashant Beta Test User 4. Full name would be Test User 4. The email address, I'm going to just pick some random email address. From manager, I'm going to set myself as the manager. Rest of the fields remain the same. I'm going to go ahead and click Add User. it is going to next ask me to specify the access rights this user has. So I'm going to add it to the bare minimum user permission group, which is called users. Shows me the access rights available to the user in a more concise format. And then I can go in and right from here, I can add the user to any groups which are available. So I don't have to go separately to groups. This is a new enhancement. So you can add user to groups directly from here. In my case, I have not defined any groups yet. So I'm going to go ahead and click finish. And the user got added. I can always add new user or I can close this window. And the new user got added over here. Now, similarly, if I go to groups, I can add a group as a group lead. I'm going to make myself as the group lead. I can click next, go to group members. I can add few members to this group. I'm going to add a couple of users. And from here itself, I can add this group into a role itself instead of having to go to roles separately. So I can say this group would be part of the user role. Click finish. I can add more groups if I wanted. Similarly for roles, if I drill down, I can see all the information. I can add more members and I can assign access rights to them. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new role. Just call it test role. Click next. Select all the permissions I want to assign to this particular role and then click next. And then I can go ahead and add members. I can add my newly created test group to it. And I can also add users based on say username or full name. So I'm going to go ahead and add these two users and click finish. It is more intuitive now to add users, groups, and roles. As far as delegation is concerned, the whole layout of delegation has been changed as well to match what you used to see in modern work center. I'm going to go ahead and say create a delegation from test user 4 to test user 1 starting today and ending in 1 day and all days, and this will be active. So now what you will see is a more card based layout. Let me add another one to show how those would look like with multiple users. I'm going to say test user 3 to test user 1 starting today, ending in maybe 1 week's time, and it's going to be active for all days of the week. So as you can see, multiple of these cards start showing up just like the modern work center which we had. You can always click on it and start editing it as well. So it has a carousel view. You can also always go back to the old list view kind of thing as well. You don't have to have the carousel view showing up. Next, we will navigate to system. This is where a few changes have come in as well. Session management remains almost the same, but if you go to system monitor, the entire layout has been changed. We have converted it into a more tab-based layout. Now I'm in my on-demand system. That's why I'm seeing only 3 tabs. Just to show you the functionality from a private cloud and on-premise system, you'll see a lot more tabs over here. So if you go to system monitor, we have broken down the whole experience into multiple tabs. The overall system performance comes under the performance tab where you see event processing time, event processing threads, worker threads, database threads. If you go to access control, this is where you will get a snapshot of what's happening as far as the access control within your organization, how many users are enabled, disabled, how many groups, roles, active users, your license usage, your app usage, how many total apps, published apps, apps in development, how many total forms have been created and published, how many of them are in development, your runtime statistics, process instances overview based on the timeline, task overview, and email notification overview. And the real-time performance have been moved inside this particular window itself. You can go to real-time performance and it starts capturing the data, and you can always say capture it for next 30 minutes, which you can download just like I showed you in the cluster monitor module in the last video. You can always capture it, and later on, once you stop capturing it, you can download it as well. Cluster monitor, I already covered this in a separate video. Similarly, you can go to webhooks and start creating webhooks. The experience remains almost the same. It's just a technology upgrade on that screen. Now going back to my on-demand environment, you'll see the same options over here as well. One thing I wanted to mention is if you go to roles, you'll see a new out-of-the-box role called Citizen Developer. This has permissions which you would typically assign to a Citizen Developer in your environment. So you can start managing your Citizen Developer users under this role. You can always change the base permissions if required. Another thing I'm going to point out is I'm going to do a separate video on this topic. There is access control, which is available on these roles. So you can go in and look at the various auditing events which are happening on this particular role or group or some of the other aspects. I'm going to cover this in its own video. So with this, we come to the end of this video. As you can see, the screens of the Manage Center have become more responsive and faster, which is very important while dealing with a large amount of data. And also some of the screens have been redesigned to improve the user experience. And a lot of new features like audit log and cluster server monitor has been added as well. Thanks a lot for your time.